most of us have been living our lives in an illusion. That means we have been living our lives through the experiences of the frightened parts of our personalities. Whenever you're hurting, whenever you're jealous, whenever you think you need something that you don't have and you can't live without it, whenever you have something and you're terrified that you're going to lose it, all of those are experiences of frightened parts of your personality. And when you're in frightened parts of your personality, you cannot experience the loving parts of your personality. The two are mutually exclusive. The new consciousness allows us to choose the experiences that we will create consciously. Love is required to give the gifts you were born to give, and that is what you were born to do. These are the experiences you were born to create. You were born to create authentic power. Welcome back. It's good to be with you again. Now that we're talking about it, have we ever been apart? Where were you? Where have you been since the last podcast? You've been somewhere. Do you remember where it was? Do you know where you are now? That's the topic of this series of podcasts. What is real? We looked at AI. Well, that's hardly real. When you really examine AI and you see it doesn't think, it can't think. Even if it were programmed to think, it couldn't think. It could only simulate thinking, but it can't even do that. It's just pattern recognition. Seems to know a lot. It does. It knows everything on the internet, but it doesn't know it. It can match patterns in it. No, that's not real. That's not going to be something you could bet on. Well, what about meaning? Yeah, that's real. When you know you should be doing something and you shouldn't be doing something else, and fear is not a part of that, it's only a deep knowing, a deep understanding, a deep experience that, yes, this is what I should be doing. This is what's right for me in my life. That's real. That's why meaning is your compass. You don't have to make it your compass, but I suggest that you do. It's the best compass I know of because it always points you toward the new, true north, and that's your heart. Well, let's see, what else do we look at? Connection. Is connection real? Yeah, that's real. If you're really connected to another person, that's real. If you're connected to what you want from another person, or what you're thinking about another person, or what you think another person should be doing, that's not real. We'll go into exactly what it is on this podcast. But let's keep going for a minute. Reverence. Reverence is relating to not the surface appearance of the people in your life, but to their inner essence. It's relating beyond the shell of appearance to the true essence of who or what a person or a plant or a thing or an animal is. That's reverence. When you're doing that, you're revering that person or thing or animal or plant. And you can't revere one person, for example, without revering all people. You can respect one person and not respect anyone else. But you can't revere one person without revering everyone, because reverence is that perception beyond appearance. What are you beyond appearance? A soul. And that's what everyone else is beyond appearance. Soul-to-soul connection. That's real. That's why it feels so good. That's why you don't have to convince anyone to be something they're not, or try to persuade someone to be something else. You're with them. You're with them the way they are. And they're with you the way you are for a moment. And when that happens, it's a good feeling. When all of your relations are soul to soul, then you are expressing your soul. And that's authentic power. Well, what about perceptions? which of your perceptions are real? Well, we talked about this a little before. Suppose there's a child playing in the street. It's a residential street. There's no traffic usually. And it's on its bike, and this time a car goes by and it brushes the bike and the bike falls over and the child's on the street and it doesn't appear to be conscious. And the family is watching this from a house window and they're alarmed, they're disturbed. Oh my gosh, my child, is it okay? Is it hurt? Is it dead? Is it alive? Is that perception real? It is only real to the part of your personality that is perceiving it in that way, and that is a frightened part of your personality. A frightened part of your personality does not see things the way they actually are. It sees things the way it projects them to be. In this case, and in all cases, when it's a frightened part of your personality, a tragedy, a disappointment, something happening that should not have happened, the worst of all possible things that could happen. But when you're seeing the same experience through the lens of love, you're seeing something different, very different. You're seeing a child lying in the street by a bicycle, and the child doesn't appear to be moving. What you're seeing through the lens of love is an opportunity to grow spiritually, and that's real. That's always the case, and it's always real. That means the entire realm of fear is an illusion. It's not real. Now, we talked about this briefly, too. Otherwise, John Lennon would have written a song called All You Need Is Fear, which is absurd. All you need is love, because love is all that's real, and that's what you need. Need to what? Need to come alive. Need to wake up in your life. Need to become that which is real yourself. Well, now, how would this play out in your life? What's your favorite movie? Can you remember going to it in a theater? Can you remember getting wrapped up in the adventures of the character or the disappointments of the character or the grief of the character or the victory of the character or the defeat of the character? And while all of that was going on in you, was any part of you looking at what was real? Not if you were experiencing any of these things, because what was real in that moment was you sitting in a seat in a very large room, looking at a screen on which projected light of different colors and shapes and sizes was being projected. And you were entirely absorbed in that projection. And at the time, it seemed real. It seemed so real. And you left the theater crying or exhilarated. You're not going to forget that. Well, the interaction that was meaningful to you, that brings us back to meaning. But your experience of what was happening in that moment was an illusion. And that's the illusion that you're in when a frightened part of your personality is active. When a frightened part of your personality is active, it is projecting onto the world parts of itself that it's not aware of. For example, you may not think of yourself as jealous, but if you encounter someone and you don't like jealousy in that person, you're projecting a part of you onto that person. How do you know it's a projection and that you're not really seeing jealousy in the other person? If you didn't have jealousy in you and you didn't dislike it in you, you would not dislike it when you see it in the other person. You'd simply see another person who's jealous, and you would treat that person accordingly as someone who's in the control of a frightened part of his or her personality. But when you react, you don't like the jealousy in that person, then that's a time that you can look at yourself and see that there is a part of your personality, a frightened part, that is jealous also. So not all of your perceptions are real. And distinguishing those that are real from those that are not real is an important part of creating authentic power. Authentic power is love. Now, how does this fit into the question, what is real? If you're not sure whether you're in a frightened part of your personality or a loving part of your personality, you can put your attention into your energy processing centers. These are areas in your throat, your chest, and your solar plexus. There are more of them than that, but it's easy to look at these three. And what you're looking for are physical sensations. And when you're in a frightened part of your personality, those physical sensations are uncomfortable or painful. And by physical, I mean aching, throbbing, burning, churning, stabbing, pressure, hot, cold. These are physical sensations, not happy, sad, jealous. And when you discover, when you observe that the physical sensations in your energy processing centers are uncomfortable or painful, you know that you are in a frightened part of your personality. You can also know that by looking at its thoughts. The thoughts of this part of your personality, when it's a frightened part, are judgmental, critical. They don't like what they see, and they're reaching out always to try to change what they see so they will feel better about themselves. But they'll never feel better about themselves because they're trying to change the world and not themselves. So when you learn to distinguish love from fear within yourself, you're learning how to create authentic power. And that's another way of saying when you learn how to distinguish what is the perceptions that you encounter that are not real and distinguish those from the perceptions that are real, then you're in a position to begin to create authentic power. Authentic power is the alignment of your personality with your soul. The intentions of your soul are harmony, cooperation, sharing, and reverence for life. And when you're creating authentic power, the energy of your soul is flowing through you like the breath of a musician through a flute into the earth school. And that is what you were born to do. These are the experiences you were born to create. You were born to create authentic power. And authentic power is the alignment of your personality with your soul. The intentions of your soul are harmony and cooperation and sharing and reverence for life. And when you're experiencing these loving parts of your personality, these experiences are real. All of what I've been speaking to you about now is possible to communicate and possible to be understood because we have and are experiencing a new consciousness. If you're as old as my parents or as old as your parents, which you're not, they're your parents, they were born with the old consciousness. The old consciousness is limited to the five senses. And if whatever their consciousness perceives that cannot be tasted, touched, heard, smelled, or heard, it's not real. And they say it's your imagination. It's a delusion. It's fantasy. Because for them, it is. The new consciousness is not limited in this way. It's not limited to the five senses. And that means we're beginning to experience processes of non-physical reality and the existence of non-physical reality. And it's in this context that the question, what is real, becomes very meaningful. Because most of us have been living our lives in an illusion. That means we have been living our lives through the experiences of the frightened parts of our personalities. Five-sensory humans don't know that when they're jealous, that's an experience of a part of their personality. They think when they're jealous, they're jealous. They think when they're angry, they're angry. They think when they're loving, they're loving. But that's not the case. It's what their perception permits. With the new human consciousness, we can see that all of these experiences are experiences of parts of your personality, some of them originating in fear and some originating in love, such as gratitude and appreciation and patience. And those originating in fear, anger, jealous, resentment, obsessions, compulsions. Now we're really beginning to get into the new consciousness, our new capabilities and what we can create with them. As we realize that our different experiences each come from a different part of our personality, we also realize that we don't have to believe that part. We don't have to believe its perceptions. In other words, its perceptions are not real. Try that out. Whenever you're hurting, whenever you're jealous, whenever you think you need something that you don't have and you can't live without it, whenever you have something and you're terrified that you're going to lose it or it's going to be taken from you, all of those are experiences of frightened parts of your personality. And when you're in frightened parts of your personality, they are limiting. They are very limited. What do they limit you in doing? You cannot experience the loving parts of your personality while you're in a frightened part. The two are mutually exclusive. When you're experiencing love, you have no fear. You have no memory of fear. You are love. And when you are in fear, love is not possible. Yet love is required to give the gifts you were born to give. They come from the heart without agendas, without a second purpose, just gifts from the heart. And your joy and your meaning and your purpose come from the loving parts of your personality. They are real. In other words, the new human consciousness allows us to distinguish more and more clearly what is real and what is not, so that we can choose what is real and what is not. And the reason that's helpful is because when we choose what is not real, fear, and the perceptions of fear and the experiences of fear, they produce consequences that are unhealthy, contracted, constricted, and limiting. And when we choose perceptions of love, gratitude, appreciation, caring, patience, awe of the universe, we create consequences that are healthy, wholesome, open, constructive, and we experience them. The new consciousness allows us to choose the experiences that we will create consciously. If you don't know what your intention is, if you don't know it's love or it's fear, it's fear. You cannot create with a loving intention unconsciously. So this is what I mean when I say that most of us and most of our species throughout its existence has been living in an illusion, a delusion, because we have been living in fear. And we did not know how to distinguish between love and fear. Now, of course, people have always been able to experience love, but very seldom love without need involved in it. A mother's love for her child is pure. But as soon as the thought enters her mind that something could happen to it, that becomes illusion. This is quite a place to be. No humans have ever been in this place before. Some of our experiences are experiences of the old consciousness, and some are experiences of the new consciousness. And we are standing with one foot in one consciousness and one foot in the other, and we choose moment by moment by moment. That means we choose the experiences that we will create for ourselves. How is that? How you experience something depends on how you hold it. If you hold it in fear, it creates consequences that are painful and destructive. If you hold it in love, it opens you. It opens you to what? To unlimited potential. The potential of who you are. From the perspective of your awareness, it's the potential of who you are becoming and can become. But from the perspective of the new consciousness and where that is leading you, it is the perspective of what you already are and have been and always have been and always will be. And that is love. These are powerful times in the Earth School. They cannot be powerful times elsewhere because there is no time elsewhere. The Earth School is the domain of time and space and matter and duality and fear. And none of these exist beyond the Earth School. None of these exist in non-physical reality. Now look again at what is real for you and what is not, and the consequences of choosing and believing what is not real, and the consequences of choosing and believing what is. Is one a better choice than the other? No. One is not reward when you choose what is real and punishment when you choose what is not. You're simply choosing the experiences that you're creating for yourself. And in that, you are learning. That is the Earth School. And what we are learning is love. Eventually, you begin to connect the dots between the choices you're making and the experiences that you're having. And when they're painful, you can always trace them back to a choice that you made with an intention of fear, jealousy, resentment, feeling inferior, feeling superior, many possible choices of fear. And you can always trace back your experiences of fulfillment, of gratitude, of meaning, of purpose, of joy, to those choices that you made with an intention of love. All of this is now open to us. All of it. A new being, a new human being, a new consciousness is being born, and is being born in you. That's from the perception of the you that you were. The you that you were was a personality. It still is. But now, with the new consciousness, a new you has occurred side by side with the old you. The new you is your soul. The larger you is your soul. The larger you holds the intentions of harmony and cooperation and sharing and reverence for life. And the small you, the personality, the little you, is in the Earth School to learn how to align itself with its soul and move forward in its own evolution, as everything in the universe is moving toward its evolution, which means is evolving. The universe itself is evolving. And you are not separate from that. And you cannot be. And nothing could be. The universe is not separate from anything. What could it be separate from? If you're enjoying anything you're hearing on this podcast, subscribe to it. Now, what do I mean by enjoy? Do I mean, is it entertaining for you? Does it make you laugh? Does it make you forget your worries? That's not what I mean. I mean, do you resonate with anything that I say as relevant, profound, and pertinent for you, not for the world, for you? Something that you can use, something that you can experiment with in your life. If you do, if you resonate, then subscribe, because there's more where this comes from. It comes from the universe, as do you. So now, here's a soul step. Take out your notebook from your jeans pocket or your purse and write everything in this podcast that I've said that you resonate with. And this will take a lot of writing because I've said a lot, and a lot of it is resonating with you because you have the new consciousness. And by resonating, I mean the experience of, woo, woo, something new. Yes, yes, yes. If you already know it, that's not a resonance. That's simply a perception of what's real. But write down what you resonate with, what you see that can expand you, that is expanding your awareness. And then at the end of every evening, look at what you resonated with and see what you can learn about yourself from that. I suggest that if this is meaningful to you, that you take a course that we've created called Beyond the Five Senses. You can find it on our website, theseatofthesoul.com. Everything that you find on our website is designed with one purpose only, to support you in creating authentic power. And this course, Beyond the Five Senses, is a good starting place for that. Because if that's not solidly established in your awareness now, it will be after you take this course. Not because the course will change you, but because you will change yourself. Because of what you learn and see in the course. And what will you learn and see in the course? The same things that I've just been describing to you in this podcast, but perhaps bring it home in a way that's more easy to remember. More easy to remember what? Yourself. In a larger, grander, more expansive, more satisfying, more fulfilling way. I'm looking forward to being with you again soon. I'm Gary Zukav.